off so that you don't appear anywhere. And we will be putting this out onto the Facebook group in probably a day or two. So if anybody you know would like to catch up with it or has missed it, you know where to point them to catch up, which is brilliant. Anyway, thank you very much for being here right now. We're going to be following on some of the articles that we did last week. We've got Deb Jones is with us, and we're going to do Deb's Hedgehogs in Her Garden part 2, which is absolutely fantastic. We've got another Dawn story for you. And we're going to feature this week, we've got a special prepared about the horse chestnut, which unfortunately Ash can't be with us this week, but we are going to get him on as soon as we can get Wi-Fi into the Lawrence mansions. But so this week we've got Hibernation part 2, as we said. I'm going to do a little bit about the robot. Speak English, Simon. About the robot in John O'Groats. And we're also going to talk a little bit about how the site's going to develop. We've got a challenge for you, which will run into next week. Ross is going to talk a bit about the North Downs Way this week. So with all that to get in, we probably better crack on and get to the next article. So last week, remember, we spoke about how really, really lucky we are to have this planet in this solar system and to exist on it in the form that we do. We're going to move on a little bit because one of the things we'll be talking about as we go through are the 5 senses and just a little bit on how we can actually interact with the world that we live in. And we're going to be doing that for the next 5 weeks through the circle. But today there's a kind of thing which we're going to bookend the program with. So we're going to start off just thinking about what it is that gives us that thing that makes us what we are, because all organisms are bigger than the sum of the parts. And if you like, one of the ways of trying to actually understand that is to think about, if you can imagine there's a robot, and that robot is in John O'Groats, right up at the top of Scotland, but you're down here. Now, you're watching these TV screens, which are attached to the cameras that are eyes in the robot, okay? You're hearing sounds out of speakers, which are coming from microphones, which are the ears of the robot. The things that you smell are coming from sensors, which are in the nose of the robot. The things that you might taste are again coming from sensors in this robot. And anything that you might touch works on the same way. Now, if you think about that, you are based in Kent, wherever you happen to be, but the robot is in John O'Groats. Now, your awareness is entirely up in John O'Groats, but your physical body is in Kent. So that must signify that there's something about our consciousness, about our awareness, which is more than just this body that we're standing in. And if you take a moment to think about that, it's kept philosophers going for millennia. Not going to ask you questions, but we're only going to give you a couple of moments. So.
Well, that's a very interesting start. I think we can all agree. Our next section is the start of the year for a lot of animals to go into hibernation. Now, this is a part where Deb's involved. We'll be talking a little bit about bats, and we'll be showing you a hedgehog box. Now, I'll let Dad carry on and show you what he's got.
Okay, hibernation. Hibernation is an ability that some animals have to get through the winter without any real food source, if you like, because especially if your food supply is bugs or worms or beetles or insects and things like that, they become very scarce through the winter. So what some creatures do, and in this country there are just 3 that really hibernate. There's the bat, there's the hedgehog, and there's the dormouse. So we're going to talk a little bit tonight about bats and a little bit more about hedgehogs. But what exactly is hibernation? It's where the body of that animal goes into what's called torpor. And torpor, if you like, their body slows right the way down. The heartbeat slows really, really slow. The temperature, body core temperature drops significantly. But to prepare for this long period, if you like, of dormancy, the animal will actually fill up, will stock up to increase the fat levels in its body and help it survive that lengthy period. And there are two kinds of fat. There's the white fat that we kind of see when if we eat, but there's also brown fat. And the brown fat will concentrate near those organs that need it, and they'll actually be drawn on to give them an energy boost by the animal whilst it's in hibernation. So that's how it kind of works. If the body gets too cold, then there is enough, if you like, brain power going on that it will actually bring that animal back to a level of consciousness to allow it to actually move about or shake and shiver, just enough to bring that core temperature back up to a good enough state that that animal can continue. But hibernation in some creatures is so full on that they actually appear to be completely dead. So it's kind of like difficult to know. And if you find anything over winter, leave it doing what it does. So that's roughly what hibernation is. We're going to say, look tonight at the bat and we're going to have part 2 of Deb's hedgehog. And we're going to look at the houses that bats and hedgehogs use, or that we can provide for them in our own houses. Now, at no expense, and it's vanished. Who's? God. There's planning and organisation. There it is. I have a bat. This is a life-size bat, okay? I'm not going to move it around and make aeroplane noises, but it is. The most common bat in this country is a pipistrelle, which is around about this size.
To give you a rough idea, there's my hand, and that is a size guide.
So, pipistrelle bats. Now, bats are amazing creatures. They are the only mammal that's like us that can actually fly. And they actually fly an awful lot better and a lot more accurately or faster than many of the birds, of which there are many species, but the bat is the only species of mammal that can take to the air. It's also, I mean, they're incredibly amazing. When you think about it, you've got this little tiny creature that flies around in the dark. Now, you've heard the cliche, blind as a bat. Well, the interesting thing, well, who thinks bats are blind? If you want to put it in the chat, 1 for yes, it's blind, 2 for no, it's not blind. Don't be shy.
We've got Chris coming back with 2, Sarah coming back with 2, Ian coming back with 1, and Deb Jones coming back with 1. Mark coming back with 2. We've got a mixture of 2s and 1s.
Well, we would have. Hey, bats can see as well as we can. Their eyesight is just as good as ours, but they tend to fly around at night. Now, if you imagine that kind of time of day, it's dark. If you've ever gone out with a dog at night, people tend to take a torch, but if you actually leave it, you can see a certain amount. But if you run around when it's really dark, you will bump into trees, you will bump into anything that's out there. And bats have to be able to fly around, and they have to detect what's there that they don't want to fly into. They also have to be able to work out what's there that might want to eat them. And they also have to work out what's there that they might want to be able to eat. So they have this system called radar, which is very similar to the radar that, if you like, we use. It's about sending out a signal and then receiving it. And bats do exactly this. We, as adults, we generally need a bat detector, but some children can actually hear bats emitting their signals. And the signals they broadcast hit a variety of different things, and the sounds that come back to them, they are actually capable of recognizing exactly what's out there, how to, where the things they need to avoid, the things that they can actually catch. And if you think the size of a bat and then the size of its prey, that's actually pretty amazingly awesome. Just think, you've got this tiny little creature that can fly around very, very skillfully in the dark and also emit a sound and work out what those signals mean when they come back again. That's pretty awesome. I'm just trying to work out how in evolutionary terms they ever managed to achieve that. It's pretty spectacular. I think it's one of those real wow moments. And bats, again, as the temperature has just dropped, are looking to hibernate. And they are running out of places to hibernate, in the fact that we as a species have been looking to make our houses more efficient in places that don't lose so much energy. We don't want to spend money heating the sky. So we insulate our lofts and we make all our buildings completely sealed. And that's great for us because it reduces our bills, but it's bad for creatures like bats that have been flying into our houses and roosting in loft spaces.
We've got a question from Owen. Do they fly about only at night?
They do fly around during the day to a certain extent. You can certainly see them generally at dusk. It's the best time to go out and catch them. When they're starting to come out, they're starting to move. And if you know where they're roosting, churches are still a favourite place, then you can see them at dusk. I have not seen any recently, but I have seen them flying around until December. So if you like, as dusk comes towards us, then it's almost easier to get out and have a look. But yeah, they do. But it's rare to find a bat flying around in broad daylight because being the colour that they are, which is great at night, they're dead easy for anything to pick off. So
no, I mean, I remember when I was only 3 years old, we went on holiday to the Isle of Wight, and I remember at the time, I was 3 years old. I remember we sat outside at dusk one night, and we looked up in the sky, and Dad would point out, "Oh, there's a bat." And of course, me being 3 years old and watching Batman cartoons, I managed to think at the time, and I still remember it very clearly in my head, that the green and red light in the sky traveling along was the bat, not remembering it was a plane. And then later on, I mean, this is years later, I must have been 7 or 8, there was a couple that did a presentation up at Mungin Village Hall, up the road from where we live. I remember going there when it was just becoming autumn and it was just starting to become dusk, and they went up there and they did a short presentation on the bats and why they went to churches and a lot of stuff on that. And eventually at the end of it, which is the bit I was really looking forward to, was actually going outside, and you got to stand in the churchyard and they had the little bat detectors and they hold it up in the sky, and every time you'd hear it going dit, 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 and as soon as you heard that, if you looked in between the shadow of the tree from the moon, from where the sun was coming down and the moon was coming up, and you could just about see these fluttery little bats flying around every so often. And sometimes you're very fortunate to see them. But I remember that night quite well because there must have been 10 to 20 flying around. And the more you heard the beeper going off, the more you were looking. There was more and more and more everywhere you looked. And no, I remember that quite well. And I still remember being 3 years old, sat in the Isle of Wight, looking at the sky, thinking that aeroplanes are bats. But that shot got outlived 5 years later when I actually got shown what they really looked like.
Absolutely. It was funny because the vicar made a great point of actually telling us that he had a real problem with the bats because they kept pooing on his Bible, which, if you like, bat poo is dry. You know, it can be brushed off for the most part. And if it's that much of an issue, I would just either take the Bible away from the lectern or put a plastic sheet over the Bible, because I think having bats nesting would be an honour and a privilege rather than, I mean, I think he actually just liked to tell the story, but as I do. But anyway, moving swiftly onwards, we digress.
Ian's just asked, sorry to interrupt you, Ian's just asked, do they bite? Do bats bite?
Yes, they do. Again, another story we might run into next week. Another story. I used to go bird ringing over at Sandwich Bay Bird Observatory. And every now and then they would have courses over the weekend for people to come in and learn about ringing birds, or to advance their way through a very structured program, if you like, of skill levels and abilities. And there was one gentleman who came in and they'd actually caught a bat in the nets that were put out for the birds. And they put the bat into a bag, kind of like one of those cotton money bags that we used to have to go to the bank, and basically he had to put his hand into the bag to get what he thought was a bird in there out. And of course the bird isn't allowed to come out of the bag because then you've got to catch it. And it wasn't until after it had bit him and everyone had had a bit of a laugh that he actually pulled out a bat, and it was a pipistrelle. And that's as close as I've ever got to a bat. But the long answer to a simple question, yes, they do. So, moving swiftly back onwards to the schedule, this is a bat box. This is actually made by a local gentleman, and we can sell you these. That's coming later. But it's a bat box specifically because on the bottom here, we've got these ridged lines. I think you can just about see those on the picture. And the bat will actually land. What we've done with it, there it is. The bat will land on this ridge section, and then, don't you love these props? And then go up into the bat box, where they'll then go in and hang for the night or for the winter. Now, we have to admit, and I'd love to know if you know differently, I've yet to see one of these used. But all I know is that if you don't use them, absolutely nothing will happen. The bat box should be put at least 5 meters up on your property, probably hanging off the fascia. Would be a really good place, and they kind of quite like them facing probably south. But anyway, there you go, bat boxes. So, moving swiftly onwards.
Well, actually bringing it backwards,
oh,
we've got another bat story coming.
Okay.
It's coming from Emily. She says, I love bats. When I was growing up, my neighbour volunteered for local bat rescue and nurse bats back to health at home. One day, let me visit, let a pipistrelle fly around the spare room, and it landed in my hair. Well, at least you didn't get bitten. That's always a good start.
Absolutely. Well, maybe if these people are still about, we'll have to see if we can get a bat person to come in and do a little feature.
I would have just asked as well, how many bats would hang in the box?
That's a very good question. I would imagine by the size of them and having seen documentaries, probably quite a few. I'd imagine 10 to 15 would not be unrealistic, but that's an unqualified answer as well. I think we are building up a case here for seeing if we can find a bat specialist to bring them on.
I think so. We've also got another question from Barbara, and she asked, how do bats live? How long do bats live, sorry?
I would, again, going by the size of them and comparing them to, if you like, mice and small rodents, which must be similar, I would have thought the average bat probably lasts 2 to 3 years. As it's funny, the heartbeat of any creature is actually proportional to the size of it. And that size tends to go with the how long they live. So if you imagine really big animals like elephants, giraffes tend to live a really long time. And the smaller that creature is, the shorter its lifespan. But its heartbeat's much, much faster. So one of the reasons why small creatures, and bats in particular, have to be on the go the whole time is just to keep up that metabolism. And because they have to be on the go the whole time, they have to be feeding the whole time. And if you think about it, it's quite possible that in that short 2 to 3 year time, they probably live as much life as we do in our 70 to 80 years, proportionally.
Got another question coming about bats. If bats are comfy somewhere, for example, my mum's oast house, I think I said that right, oast house.
Yeah.
Would they move into a bat box to hibernate?
A good question. And I don't 100% know the answer, but I imagine to a certain extent they're a bit like we are, or even their pets. They probably work on the philosophy, if it ain't broke, they ain't going to fix it. I'd imagine that they are creatures of habit and will stick to where they go. But again, that's a question we're going to need to write down, and we're going to have to get in a bat specialist. So, Britt, I'm loving the fact that we've got questions coming in and we've got interest, because ultimately this circle is for you. It's about us hopefully answering some of your questions, but also addressing the things that you want from it. So that's absolutely brilliant, and that's one we'll note down for future occasions.
We've got another story as well. Louise has come back. She said, when I was 10, my next door neighbour rescued a bat and we looked after it for a couple of days.
Wow.
And we've also got Ian come back with, I know a Batman. So, Ian might have the
Yeah.
Batman or a guest that knows a lot about bats. I mean, either or, I'm not. I mean, I'm not going to say no if actual Batman wants to turn up as well. We've also got Alan. He's come back with. We have bats living in the corner of Dane Park in Margate. I often see/feel them flying around when I'm out walking the dogs late in summer evenings. They seem to roost in the trees.
Wow.
And Sarah has also come back with dinner, 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 Batman.
That's the Irish coffee, isn't it?
Must be. Definitely got to be the
Got to
Irish
be
coffee,
the Irish
I believe.
coffee. Bailey's, I believe, yes. God, if we get enough in about Bailey's, think we can get a commission from them? Anyway, we need to be moving on. I think we have gone way over schedule. So we're going to move on now, and we're going to bring Deb Jones into the action here. Ross is just performing some technical wizardry. Now, Deb's, for those of you that don't know, came on last week, and she actually joined us from her garden, and we had some fantastic discussion and looking at the boxes and things that Deb's got. But we're going to pass over to Deb's because she's got an amazing footage that she's filmed, and we're going to let her introduce it for you. Can we hear you, Deb?
Yeah, I think, can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, the only way I can describe it is I'm in love with my hedgehog. You know, I think this is the first time I've ever had a hedgehog in the garden. I'm learning every day. And I just happened to see it by chance. And I think it's because it decided to hibernate in the feeding box. I didn't put any food down for a couple of days, no food, no water. And then I thought, oh, you know, maybe I need to put something next to it. So I put a box next to it just to put the food and water in. And it must have been really hungry. And I'd spotted the footage that we saw before with it walking in and out. It looked disorientated. And I think they get like that if they're dehydrated. So that's when I decided to put food and water down beside it. Anyway, I went out just early in the morning. It was just getting light, just to see if it had eaten anything. And I opened up the box and went to put my hand in, and there it was, this big hedgehog. And I'm like, oh, quickly put the lid back down. And I thought, I've got to get my phone. So I sat out there by the box in my pajamas, waiting for this hedgehog to come out so I could catch the footage. And I got some amazing footage. So yeah, I sent you the video earlier, Simon. So hopefully you have it there.
We have indeed. We'll just do a quick screen share here. This is quite spectacular. Enjoy this.
There's no sound, Simon. I can just talk through. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You're much louder than the video.
Into the box.
And I can hear it now.
Up just to go and check to see if the hedgehog fed last night and to make sure he's getting enough food. So next to that box, there's this other little box that I'm using just as a feeding box because he's taken over this box. He's taken over this box to sleep in, and the bowls I used are still in there. So I've had to get new bowls and start using this box. So I just went over to have a look. It is fairly early. It's just getting light. The hedgehog's in there actually munching away. I can hear him munching. As I lifted up to change the food, all I was faced with was a load of bristles. I'm really hoping the hedgehog comes out so I can get a little glimpse of him before he goes off to sleep for the day. So it looks like he's going to come back out. He's just inside eating. Oh my goodness, look. So he's enjoyed his food. And he's obviously used his straw. He's enjoyed doing that. Oh, he's so lovely. Look at that. Off to bed for the day. That is incredible. Oh, wow.
That's absolutely amazing, Deb.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I could watch that and watch that and watch that. And I think I'm addicted because even before I came up here, I peer out of the window. And I put a camera out last night, but the battery had gone in it. So I was a bit gutted. So I've bought rechargeable batteries now, so I don't have that trouble anymore. So I can get as much footage as I can, and I can always keep updating. It is just incredible. I feel very blessed to have a hedgehog in my garden. I really do.
Absolutely. What time of day was that? Did the camera make it look lighter than it was?
Yeah, because when you turn the camera on, it's a bit dark. The light comes on the camera, so it was making it look lighter. It was about, I think about 6:30, something like that. But it was early. It was later in the morning than what I would expect a hedgehog to be out. However, I've been in touch with the Preservation Society, and I've told him how big he is, and he's chunky and he's eating loads. I mean, every morning the food's almost gone, and it's a great big mound of food I put out. And they just said, look, they just pop their head in and out. They'll just keep getting what they need because they're building up the stores for the winter. And he's just a character because I put the straw down the night before, and you could see the state of the straw. It was all everywhere. It was all in the box. He's had a field day out there. He really has. So I'm looking forward to getting some footage on the night camera to see him out and about at night, because I've been out there in the evening, and I went out there just to check on things, and I could hear, because you can hear them. They're really like crunch, 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 crunch. You can hear the sound, and I'm like, well, where is he? Because I can hear him around. And when I looked round, he was on the grass right next to me. Like it's very dark, but you can just about see him. But I put a lot of tomatoes out as well. They like tomatoes as well. So yeah, it is. I'm just learning all the time. I would be really over the moon if I had little hogs in the spring. It would be incredible. That would be another story, wouldn't it? But we shall see. It is lovely. I'll keep sharing. Whatever I get, I'll keep sharing.
We've got a couple of responses to your video going through, Deb. One from Sarah saying he's so cute. One from Ian saying fantastic. One from Barbara saying amazing. Penelope saying it's brilliant. And Sarah saying, I've got one that comes into my garden. Funny little thing.
They're
You
quite.
need a box. You need a box, Sarah.
Indeed. Well, we're talking about boxes. I just happen to have here a hedgehog box. Now, this is it's about 45 centimeters by 45 centimeters. I'm struggling to actually get it into the shot, but if you can see that, it's been handmade by a local gentleman. He's made it out of pallets. Now, the door at the front, this is important. Obviously, you can buy a hedgehog box from us, and we'll make sure everything is exactly as it should be. But the door needs to be roughly 4 inches by 4 inches, or 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters. We've actually bought them in the past when we put them into gardens. We've had to actually make the door big enough for a hedgehog to actually get in. Just because it's got hedgehog box written on it doesn't mean to say hedgehogs can actually get in it. But this one, because you actually need to clean them out, as Debs has just demonstrated, they're not that good at tidying up after themselves. I mean, I was going to say, do you think it was a teenager? But I think it's the same with hedgehogs of all ages. But if you look on the inside of this one, it's actually got a partition here. And if I get it just like that, you can actually see there's an inside door just there, so that when you put it in outside in your garden in a sheltered, quiet spot.
Would you like me to model your hedgehog box for you?
Is it? You take that there, sir. We actually put it out in a quiet spot. If there is a wind blowing, and we always say don't face them north and don't face them east if at all possible. But if they have to, then there's a good chance that a lot of that wind can actually be blocked by having that second chamber. So there you go. That's a wooden hedgehog box, and they are £35.
Can I just add that's how, because our box was similar, our box is similar to that, and it was just done as a feeder box, but we didn't have the compartment in it, and the cats kept getting in there, and even a fox, a fox cub got right inside. So we had right palaver when we first put it, but then we created a little corridor in there, and that's it. So it's the corridor that is the trick. Absolutely
Brilliant. Again, you can, it's as cheap as chips, little basic boxes, and you can spend a fortune, but get something that's mid-range and it's solid. So as Debs has said, so if any other creature tries to find the hedgehog, it will just keep it out, because even a fox can get its head into the hole and move around a little bit. And there's nothing worse than actually managing to get a hedgehog to come into your garden and then losing it to another creature. So,
well, talking of hedgehogs and trying to get them into your garden, when I fitted fences in the past, a lot of companies, they sell gravel boards for your fence, and they're called hedgehog gravel boards. And in the corner, they've got a little area, probably about that size, they say a hedgehog can get into. Now, they all seem to vary in size. So trying to get the hedgehogs into your garden is, they say it's very easy with these, but I would just be very mindful of the size of the ones that fit in. If you don't, then look at the size of your hedgehog box hole, and on your gravel boards in your garden, cut it to that size, because they vary so much in size. If you're paying the money to get it, make sure a hedgehog can actually fit through the hole.
again, same as the box.
can I just say that, but even though you have that size, if you think it's too small, you would be amazed what hedgehogs, however big they are, can get through, because they dig, and they'll just keep digging until they get through. I've been amazed at what it's done along my fencing, getting in and out, and it's definitely the hedgehog that's done it, and it's incredible. So they are diggers. So if you've got a little hole there, it will dig until it gets through. That's what they're known for, digging.
There indeed. So now, have that hole and possibly put one in each side of the garden, because it's one of those drop in the ocean things. They need 1.5 to 2 kilometers to roam a night, unless they live next to Debs, and then they can just come out and have a massive food, but they need to have a fairly large area to get around in. One other thing, if you're looking to encourage hedgehogs into your garden and you've got a pond, make sure that they can get out of that pond, whether that's putting in a kind of slope or even dare I say steps, if you want to be really flash. But they're really good at falling in the water. They're quite good at swimming, but they are rubbish at climbing out unless they've got something put there specifically to enable them to get out. And again, let's keep our hedgehogs going, let's keep them alive, because their numbers are about 80% down to where they were 40 years ago. And that's got an awful lot to do with the way that we farm and manage our countryside, the lack of set aside in fields and places like that. So they're actually surviving on the charity of us, as are many birds. But we'll talk about that another time. I would just point out that at this moment, if you have any footage, anything that is of interest, or you think will be interest to those people coming to the circle, then please get in touch. We'd love to have you come on, talk about the animals in your garden, or even an animal that you've seen out in the countryside when you've been walking, which is just as fantastic. Again, the circle's for you, it's for the things that you want, and that means we'd love for you to get involved with us if at all possible as well.
We've got one question coming quickly just from Judith. How can you encourage hedgehogs into your garden?
Firstly, make sure they can actually get into your garden. It's amazing with the fences, and I mean, Ross just talked about putting hedgehog holes in gravel boards. There's an awful lot of gardens in this country that hedgehogs cannot actually get into. So that's an important thing. Make sure that they can get in. That could be putting a 4-inch hole in the gate at the side. When you've actually worked out a way for them to get in, and I know that the hedgehog lady in Deal, the hedgehogs actually have to come half a mile into town. They then have to find the gate to the alley that is at the 3 doors down from her back garden. She's got a hedgehog hole in that. They go up the alley. They then have to go 90 degrees and go back past the back of, I think it's 2 or 3 houses before they then get to the gate that's into her garden. And then in her garden, she's very well prepared. But it is then a case of having somewhere that they might use, like the hedgehog box that we've been talking about, putting out some food for them. But we would, again, just make the point, no bread and no milk. Hedgehogs are lactose intolerant, but they do like cat food. As we sort of said last week, they're not so keen on fish. But bits and pieces, if you think they will eat an awful lot of the small creatures and things that are in your garden, but cat food is good, if nothing else. And once you've got food there, obviously check that food. Don't leave it there to rot or go off or become unhygienic. But again, it's about having that box out there as well. There's no guarantee that if they do come in, they'll use it. But we are, if you like, same with bats, same with birds, same with hedgehog boxes. We have to be an estate agent. Yeah, we have to give them options. There's no guarantee that they'll use a box. The only guarantee is if you haven't got one, they definitely won't use it. That doesn't mean to say that you'll get a hedgehog, but you're increasing your chances. Okay.
A couple more questions and a little story coming. So Judith has come back with, so if I have a hedgehog box, where do I put the food out?
Close. It doesn't have to be anywhere specific, but just close is the important thing.
And Emily has come back with, I took an amazing picture of a bumblebee who I affectionately named Jacqueline, if you would like to hear that story one day.
We'd love you to come on. We're going to have to cut this one here because we are actually seriously running over schedule. Now, we don't mind that because it means we've got a backlog of things to bring in for future shows. But what I'm going to do now is we're going to cut straight across to Ross. Now, those of you that were here last week, Ross talked in some depth about the West Highland Way. And today he's going to do a feature on the North Downs Way, which is probably within long distance walk terms about as far away from the West Highland Way, physically, mentally, philosophically, as you can get. But we're going to pass you over to Ross and he will.
When it loads.
There we go. We're there.
Oh, if I can find the correct button. There we go. Oh, hello, a bit too far. So yeah, this week I am running a section on the North Downs Way. Now, for those of you who were here last week, and if anyone did miss it, you can find it on the Facebook group. In episode 1, I talked about the West Highland Way, which is essentially a walk in Scotland that is entirely geared up for people to come in internationally and walk it. And that is designed to be walked within a week to 2 weeks, however long you feel you need to walk it in. But it is fully designed so people can go out and do it in one section. Whereas the North Downs Way hasn't been accommodated for in the same way. The North Downs Way is a lot more geared up for people to either go and do viably with B&Bs or is geared up more to Sunday walking. And if you're going out for a day trip, put a car at one end and a car at the other and walk to the other car. But no, that's what this section will be on. Now, funny enough, we tried to walk this ourselves and do it day by day camping. Now, that didn't exactly go to plan when we found out how far away the campsites actually are from the walk. But a bonus about this walk, it is on our doorsteps. We can go out within half an hour in a car and be walking the North Downs Way. Now that, to me, is pretty cool. Now, this is the first slide. The image on the left is in Bifron's garden, and it is a bridge within it's a bridge within Bifron's garden. Now, you don't see things like that if you're just in town. Small pieces of old architectural history. I mean, who knows? That bridge could have been used years ago as a main walkway, could have been used as anyone that was walking along the North Downs Way with cattle. We don't know. But you wouldn't see it unless you were out there on the walk. And the run on the right was on day 2, and it was just outside Guildford. Now, of course, Guildford is not the smallest of places, But again, I mean, I touched on it last week. You don't have to be that far away from civilization to leave civilization behind and hit the countryside. And how amazing of a design is that bridge? Where else would you see anything so small and unique and quirky as that? Now, that is something I just wanted everyone to see, because that is so close to home. And you could go and walk that, take a day and go out and just enjoy it. Now, slide 2 is the Rochester Bridge. Now, the image in the top left, that is the image from the Cuxton side. And that just shows the sheer size of it. And our lovely dog Blitz, not that he's with us anymore. But that shows the bridge, and that is one of the key marks on the walk. One, for the reason that when you get onto the bridge, it goes from metal railings on the side, like chicken wire, and it drops into plastic perspex. Now, you would be so amazed at how that deafens the noise. And when the noise is deafened from the motorway going along, you actually get to experience the river. You get to see the islands in the river. You get to see everything that you would see without the drowning out of the motorway, which is pretty spectacular. Now, the image on the right is actually just east from that bridge. Now, you can't really tell with the pictures, but you can see all of the population and civilization in the top corner of the first one, and within minutes of leaving the bridge, you're in the countryside again. Yes, you may still have some road noise, but you've gone from full civilization with roads, houses, businesses, everything going on, to just a step back and you're in the country within minutes. Now, to me, how cool is that? You might have that in Scotland. You might have complete different aspects and different style of nature in Scotland, but we have our own beauty down here within the nature that we have. And there's a lot of places where all you have to do is just walk over the bridge, or walk 10, 20 minutes out your door, and you're in that aspect of our countryside that we can appreciate around here. And this brings me on to, if you don't get out in the countryside and experience it, you'll never get to see these weird, quirky little things that might be in an estate or might be in a village. And these are just two of them that we have of many pictures of wood carvings or statues that have been created and been left on the walk. You would never see that if you didn't get out and go and enjoy it. Now, we can't remember exactly where they both were, but we wouldn't have seen them and we wouldn't have the images to show if we'd never gone and done the walk. Now, to me, that is amazing, because you then have those memories, you have those pictures, and you think, oh yeah, no, that was weird. Oh, we have to go walk it again, maybe, so then we can see it all again. Now, to me, that is amazing. And then again, it's all images in our countryside. Now, the images you have here, the left image is in the Medway Valley, just past the bridge again. And the image on the right is where typically we clear out forest, clear out brush, clear everything out to allow for electric cables. Now, as much as that is then destroying part of the nature, which is not great, it opens up this whole new element with that view. Before, you would have never have had that view. Now you get to walk along and you get to see that for a clearing in the woods. Now, how amazing is that, that within seconds you can go from being in a thick trees and dark and gloomy area where you're in a lot of cover, and then you get to come out and you see that view, and you can see for miles in that. And to me, that is spectacular. Now, that is amazing. And this is my last slide until I read you a small section from Dad's journal of walking the North Downs Way. The image on the left is Kit's Coty, which is, if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, this is just outside Olwyn's front door, if I'm correct.
No.
Am I incorrect?
the bridge at Biffron's Gardens was near Olwyn's front door.
That's the one.
Kit's Coatie's just off the A299 near Detling.
Sorry about that. I thought I got it correct, but I must have got it wrong. But no, it is Neolithic stones that we have on our front door. Then you can go to the Stonehenge and you can travel for hours in a car to go and see them. But this is another small piece of historic stones that we have on our front doorstep. And the image on the right is just another image to show the landscapes and the nature and the wildlife that we have on our back door. Now, this is just outside Detling, but it's not far away at all. You can jump in a car and go for a walk and you can see things just like that. Now, I'm just going to read you a small section of Dad's journal from when we actually did the walk ourselves. A damp start. This is the section I've been waiting for the most. The Rochester Bridge to Jade's Crossing. We soon reach the bridge and the view is awesome. It shows a look right across the river. One of the most noticeable signs on the bridge are the ones at the both ends and were erected by the Samaritans. Roadwise is as ever totally prevalent throughout. The drop when the barrier comes from wire to perspex was massive. Why didn't they use it all the way along? The view north up the river was cool too, especially with all the islands. I've often looked to see where the path goes when it leads the A2. Well, now I know it drops under and the path follows the ridge alongside the Medway. Occasionally, information boards are helpful and they usually are accompanied by grand views. It's exciting to imagine how life was lifted here in the park. Indeed, we also get to visit Kit's Coatie, at least what remains of the long barrows, now accompanied by the soundtrack of the A299. It's only a small short section on the North Downs Way this week, but I'm hoping that it's given everyone an idea of what is on our doorstep. And maybe you want to go out and walk part of the North Downs Way in a day section for yourself, and you get to visit these things that we've seen, that I've shown you in pictures, but see it through your own eyes and see it in different types of days. If you see it when it's blue sky, you might see it when it's raining. But at the end of the day, my whole motive almost with this is to show you what is there and what is outside. Hopefully I've inspired some of you to go out and just walk in our national trails on our front doorstep. Thank you very much for listening.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Ross. Yeah, for those of us, say, we're in Kent, the North Downs Way actually comes through, it follows down Rochester Bridge, it then cuts across the Medway Valley to the M20 and comes and actually goes all the way through to Dover. So within reason, wherever you are in Kent, it's very, very accessible. It's well signposted. It's fairly easy walking as well. And if you pick the right stretch, it does go past a couple of pubs. So that, of course, is a very important thing as well. So we're going to move swiftly on at this point because we want to show you our Dawn Stories video.
Oh, I do apologise. We have got a comment from Sarah. She says she has walked a fair bit of the Pilgrim's Way. There's some very nice pubs along there.
Indeed, the Pilgrim's Way, it does form part of the North Downs Way. The North Downs Way sits actually on the old Pilgrim's Way which was for those people going on pilgrimage, funnily enough, to Canterbury and the cathedral. So yes, Dawn Stories. Not stories about dawn, stories about the dawn. This is a video we shot on Tuesday. It was one of those, I get one morning a fortnight between Monday and Friday where I haven't got a meeting on early. And that was the Tuesday just gone. So I got up early and I went out to the woods. And so there's three sections to this little video. The first one was, if you like, almost a dawn chorus, which for November is unusual. There's a little collage of pictures. And at the end, there's a little section from Monday from literally 1 minute's walk out of my front door. So enjoy.
Good morning, Simon here. If you can see that dawn behind me, but it's absolutely fabulous. It's 6:15, Tuesday the 10th, and I've actually come out to 9 Acre Woods. Let me show you. So, 9 Acre Woods. It's on the old Roman road between Dover and Canterbury. It's a commonplace. Today's been especially fantastic. We've got out the car as she drove here, and there's a buzzard flying overhead, which is beautiful. And then there's a tawny owl behind me, and that also is really cool. Did you know that there are 2 owls needed for a towit and a tawoo? And funnily enough, the male says tawoo and the female says towit. But even more amazing than that this morning was there was a barn owl screeching as well over towards Brett's hangar. And those are the moments that make these mornings so special. There's a buzzard calling now, I don't know if you can hear it. And typically, I haven't heard the barn owl since I actually got out of the car and got my boots on. But these are the things that make getting up at dawn as special as they are. So, Simon Pollard checking in at 9 Acre Woods at dawn. Thank you.
And this is a collection of photographs, 5 or 6, that I actually took that morning in Willow Woods. The sun has just risen, but it's the colours of the leaves. You know, when they go from green, they then go to yellow, and then as they fall, they turn to red. And it's just awesome. You know, we need to celebrate every single season because they all have some magic. We just have to look and listen and smell, maybe even touch the trees. Yes.
You can hear that little fella. It's a wren, or a wreness. It's 6:25, Monday the 9th of November. Beautiful.
So there we go. We'd love if you could actually get out and go out and film a video. Next week, we've got Billy Hoyle is going to come on. She went out a couple of days ago and she's got some footage, some photos from the dawn, and she's going to bring them on and talk us through it. And as we said before, you know, this is a circle for you. We'd love you to get involved and become a part of what's going on here. That would be absolutely fantastic. So we're coming towards the end of this evening. We haven't managed to quite fit in everything that we were going to do today, but that's great because that means that we've got things we can carry on into next week. But one of the things we do need to talk to you about and discuss is that it actually takes a lot of work to put all this together. So we're going to be from December, probably, unless Boris changes the end of the lockdown, we're going to be in December starting this as a subscription site. It's going to cost £15 a month. And what are you going to get for that £15? You'll get 4 of these shows, 4 of these transmissions full of things that we've gone out and we've put together and the contributions from yourselves. We're also going to have a closed Facebook group so that the people that are in the group can share stories, share experiences and communicate whatever to each other. But we're going to be able to give you 15% off anything that we sell. We also have got bird boxes, do-it-yourself bird boxes, and we run the talks and the walks and things, and we can offer 15% off of all of those events. And we think that for 15 quid, that's offering a fair amount of value. We hope that you do too. Now, what we're going to do right now is if you come up and sort of say, yeah, we'd really like to buy into this, and let us know, and we can then give you the sign-up form. And when you complete that, obviously you'll go out in the system. And as soon as you make the first payment, then what we're going to do is we're going to send out to you all 3 of these books. There's the 3-year pond and the 4 keys, unlocking the web, and the 5 senses, which together actually come to more than the first month's payment. So we'd like to have you think about that. That would be fantastic if you wanted to actually join up and become part of the Simple Life Circle. That would be brilliant. We'd also like your help to actually try and make this a real success. If you have friends or you know anybody that you think would enjoy or want to become a part of what we're doing here, that would be fantastic as well. Obviously, the more people we can get in, the better. And then when we go and, if you like, to ask a bat expert to come on, we can say, look, we've got an audience of 20, 30, 40, however many people we can get together, and they're going to be far more likely to want to come. So we can also raise the quality of knowledge that we've got. So that would be absolutely fantastic as well. So
I'd just like to also mention as well that books are actually written by my dad, and the hedgehog box, the DIY bird boxes, the bat boxes, and everything that we were selling are all helping our local community, and they are all from small local businesses that are, well, small local businesses near us. So you're not helping out a massive worldwide organisation by buying them. You're helping out a small company near us, and giving them some publicity as such by buying their products through us.
And all of the boxes are made from recycled wood as well. So it's keeping that out of landfill and other places. So everything is for a good cause. Definitely. So closing thoughts for the day. You remember I started off talking about the robot and John O'Groats and where our consciousness and everything else. There is a concept that says what's important is determined by what is not. Now that's maybe on the surface of it a really strange thing to think about, but, and I've got 2 or 3 examples for you just to take away. If you think about a wheel, a spoked wheel, yeah, you've got the hub and you've got the actual round section at the end, and you've got all the spokes that actually make that wheel. But the important bit of that wheel is not all of that, it's that gap in the middle that you put the wood through, that it goes around. And if you take that wheel apart, you've got a sum of pieces that actually have got no real value on their own. Think about the room that you're sitting in right now. It's got 4 walls probably, and a ceiling and a floor. Now, the important bit is what's inside it, where you are right now. That's where the life is, in that room. But you could take those 6 elements, distribute them apart, and they are still those 6 sections, but what's contained is not there. The life from them has gone. Now we're the same. If you think about it, we are full of organs and bones, and we've got this big skin that holds everything together in the right place, and we have this spark that makes us alive. Now if you took all of those bits apart, they'd all still be exactly what they were, but that spark of life will be gone. So just one thing to think about through the week. What is important is determined by what is not. There was a challenge, but we're going to save that one for next week.
But a challenge for you this week, since we've had so much interest and amazing stories come in about bats, can you get out at dusk or dawn and see if you can see them yourself, or take some pictures or videos and see if you can actually see them yourself in your area flying about? And if you can find any videos, please put them in the Facebook group. We'd love to see them. We would love to see them.
That's brilliant. And obviously any feedback in the Facebook group would be brilliant. We'll have the video of this one up in the next day or so. But other than that, thank you very much indeed for coming, and we'd love to see you again next week. Okay, thank you.
Cheers, Simon. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everyone.
Oh.
You click the mute, or does it unmute everything? Oh, we've only got 4 there anyway left. Mark's still there, Louis Everett.
No, it's me.
Right. Let's go. End.